Good morning, guys. Welcome back to another episode here of Bareham Engines. So, today what have we got for you? It's a bit of bearing clearance day really, guys. You do like your informative side of the channel, so here goes.
Something important going on over here, mate?
Hello, mate, all right. So, this is the 1275 Mini.
Yeah.
Just got the crank back from yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for kindly balancing it. This one was quite far out, wasn't it, you said?
Yeah, it's weird. The clutch and flywheel, that lot was all perfect.
Right.
Because it did say on he's got a sheet somewhere, he said that it's all been balanced.
So,
but the crank itself was quite far out.
So who drilled all these?
Somebody before.
So what I reckon has happened, obviously in the last video that you said it was quite far out, but I reckon that someone's balanced the crank with the flywheel on.
Yeah, I think they have.
So,
but what I don't get is that mark there, that there, and a few others, they were already on there, and like this whole big chunk out of this web, so someone has
balanced
it, but it was really far out.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing I can think, the reason they've done all their moles.
I know.
But anyway,
it's
out and it's in now.
Yeah.
That right?
It's all good now.
So what I'm doing now, mate, is just checking the running clearance.
Yeah.
So we've measured the mains and the big ends, obviously on the crank. Mains, first of all, are sort of mid-limit on the tolerance, all right? Obviously, like I've said before, plastic gauging is just a final check, really, to see what you're actually running.
Yeah.
First thing I've done is the mains. So what I've done is torque the cap down with some plastic gauge on. Now, this is our plastic gauge here. I don't even know whether I've showed on this. It's just literally
little bits of
plasticine.
Yeah.
So what we do is cut a bit off that's probably 3/4 of the width of the journal, like I've done there, look. And this is my little bit for the big end that we're going to do in a moment.
Yeah.
And then what you do is, so you lay it on lengthways.
Like that, yeah.
You put your cap on without turning the crank.
Yeah.
And then you torque it up. Do it up very gradually, both sides at a time, and then torque it up. We've done our centre one, and that's what we're left with. So it squidges it down. So basically, the narrower the plastic gauge afterwards, the more clearance you're going to be running, because the less it's squished it down. Okay, and that's why when you read the gauge sheet here, you'll find the lesser clearance is the bigger.
Yeah.
So all you do, it's just fairly crude, really. You just literally you find out which one lines up the most. So you can see there, it's certainly not 3 thou. It's a little bit less than 2.5. But when we put the 2 on, look. It's absolutely perfect, and that is pretty much a 2-inch journal there, so that is bang on. Couldn't ask for any better.
Ideal.
So what I'm going to do is just do the big end now. So the way we do the big end, you've just got to be careful when you're doing it not to turn the crank, because obviously it can mess up your gauge.
Smudge it, won't it?
Yeah, so I've laid the rings out of this piston. We've still got to check the gaps on those yet. You just put the piston and the rod down the hole. So you can see it's flapping about with the bearing on. So just hold the rod up, because if you don't, it will fall through.
Yeah, of course.
And we put our little bit of gauge on there. Okay.
Just like that.
Just like that, he says. And then we put our cap on. Now these rods are handed in the minis, and I'll show you what I mean. They're offset, the rods. So what that means is the actual journal isn't in the centre of the bore, but I'll show you that in a moment. So we'll do these up. Now, on these little A series, got to be a bit careful on the bolts and the torque settings.
Right.
So, for the Cooper S, they give a 3/8 bolt thickness, okay?
Right,
This is a Conrod bolt. But this one, on the A+, apparently, you measure that, look, 345-ish. We go to the trusted Zeus book.
Yeah.
1130. Where are we? 1132s.
Oh, right.
So that's what this one is. So if we've been on the MED website,
Right, yeah.
where I think most of these bits have come from, and it looks like these are a standard Rover bolt.
It's quite
and nut.
quite a strange
Stud and
size,
nut.
that, isn't it?
It is a bit of an odd size. The ARP, so they're not ARP. For ARP, on the 3/8 they give 55 foot-pounds,
Right.
the ARP torque,
Yep.
but MED recommend that you do them 42.
Okay.
Obviously they build a lot of these, so that's what they do them to. The standard 3/8 torque is 45. Okay,
Right.
but these are 1132s. MED are recommending on the ARPs doing 35. Okay,
Yeah.
because these are originals, this is what we're getting from the original spec. So we're getting 33 and a half.
Right.
And that is for stud and nuts as opposed to bolts. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So we're going to go with the 33 and a half.
Yeah.
So yeah, hope that makes sense. Bit confusing, I know.
So these nuts and the studs, they're not ARP.
They're not ARP. These are original items.
So they're original.
apparently.
They're just brand spanking.
So we just do these off the original spec. We just oil them with the ARPs. Whatever they spec, you do it with the ARP grease.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's why usually if you use the grease, they do it with a bigger spec really.
Yeah.
So we are doing these to 33 and a half. Obviously, when you're doing the big ends with the plastic gauge, you've got to be careful that you don't turn the crank when you're doing it. So that's why I always hold the crank as opposed to the block. So we torque them down. Undo them. And now you've got to be a bit careful with these A-series ones because the stud is a press fit into here and also up into the cap until you get right to the end of the thread. So I normally put the nuts on so they're just catching a couple of threads. Same with that one there. And then what we want to do with the soft end of this mallet, hold the cap up so it's not so it's not pressing down on the plastic gauge. We take the one nut off, holding the rod now, should be able to take that cap off, and we just drop that down now. You can see our gauge there. So what we're aiming for on here, if we measure the journal, you've got an 1 3/4 journal, okay? So something around 1 3/4 or 1.75. So if we go to 1.5, it's clearly smaller than that. But if we go to the 2, it's probably more like 1.8, 1.9,
Yeah.
which is ideal really.
It's about right, yeah.
Usually on the smaller journals, I know I've said before that we don't like to run too much more, but this is a pretty stock build. And obviously on a smaller journal, around about size, if not just over, on a stock build would be absolutely perfect. So yeah, 1.8, 1.9 on this.
Cool.
More than happy with that, mate. So we've got 2 on the mains, 1.8, 1.9 on the big ends. So we're happy with that. Next thing to check will be the thrusts, but we can check that when we torque all the mains up.
Yeah.
And then it's good to go. So
Cool.
ring gaps, thrusts, and then this thing can be put back together. Job
Ideal.
done. Right, guys, what is the dramatised thumbnail and title today, you are wondering? I know you are. I know you love these. The reason I'm bringing this little subject up, guys, is because we've had 2 incidents of this in the last week, actually. So these are both for engines we've done, so not machining work, they're both engines that we have done in the last year. So not necessarily recently, one of them was a couple of months ago, and one before that was getting on about 10 months ago. First one was a garage that we did an engine for. It was a mini engine, I believe. And apparently they rang up, and I do remember speaking to them, they rang up shortly after fitting the engine saying that the core plugs are leaking. There's 2 core plugs at the back of the block on the Mini. So they rang me up. In fairness, they rang me up shortly after and said, look, it's got a bit of a leak. We've obviously got to replace the core plugs, which we did replace. They were new, but they were just leaking. I said, it was the mechanic rang me up. I said, get your boss to ring me back or give me a quote for him doing it because you're a garage. Obviously, we'll see whether we're happy with the price. If it's too dear, then we'll have the car back. Anyway, didn't hear any more. Rang up just under a week ago, another mechanic from there, and said, oh, we've got a head to come in to you to be refaced. But is there any chance of you doing it for free? I said, what for? He said, well, apparently you spoke to my boss quite a while ago about a mini engine. We had to do it. So, you know, can you do something on that? And I said, well, hang on a minute. He was meant to get back to me to tell me a price of doing it, but no one ever did. Fortunately, all they wanted really was a head face out of it. So we did it for nothing. But I said, look, you need to really do it in the proper manner. Do you know what I mean? Secondly, we had another guy that we did an engine for, and he said that there was something wrong with the bottom crank pickup, and they had to sort of take the belt off and fiddle about with it. It wouldn't pick up or something. I don't know exactly what was going on because John spoke to him. He said, we've had it done. What are you going to do about it? So John obviously come back to me yesterday. I haven't spoke to the customer just yet, but it's a little bit like, the way I see it is really you should go through the proper steps with it. You need to, if it's an engine that's under warranty, you need to come back to us and give us the option on which way we want to go about it, whether we want to fix it, whether we want to sub it out to someone that you know or whatever, but we need a price first. That's the whole point of it. It's a little bit like going to Tesco or any other supermarket, doing your shop, 2 weeks later, giving them a ring and saying, listen, that shopping that we bought from down here 2 weeks ago weren't very good. Can we have some money back? Your answer's going to be no, guys. You need to go through the proper steps. That's the way I see it. But for some reason, with garages and machine shops like this, as soon as anyone comes in the door, it seems it's all a little bit like the backhand sort of backstreet garages, stuck in a time warp sort of thing, and the way people deal with things. We are a legitimate business, you know. We charge proper money, so we need to go through the proper steps. Otherwise, not just yourselves, but for us, we can get into all sorts of trouble, really. You can, you know, open up all sorts of little bloody doors. So, yeah, we've just asked you guys, if you've got a problem with something we've done, just come back and give us the opportunity to rectify it in the way that we want to rectify it and that's proper. Otherwise, the answer's going to be no, I'm afraid. And then that's when we start sort of falling out with people and then going around and bad-mouthing us, which we certainly don't want. So, yeah, just stick to the proper steps, guys, and everything will be hunky-dory. Right then, guys, so this Cosworth here, I'm just starting to clean up some bits, some ancillary bits, etc. Now, this is the one with the new crankshaft that we bought, and we obviously got the new Bridgeway rods, Wiseco pistons at 92mm, because it didn't clean up 1mm. I'll go more into that in a moment, but Isaac is just round at the moment balancing the new crankshaft. And the only reason he's balancing that is because obviously he's got to face the flywheel and balance the clutch cover, etc.
Yeah.
So how's it going, buddy? All right?
Well, it's interesting.
So this is the new crank.
Very nice.
So in theory, this should be pretty good, really.
And it is.
It is it?
It is good. It's good news. So
do the...
on that front end there, it's like, you know, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good, that.
Completely.
When you bear in mind, you look at this crankshaft, and it doesn't appear to have any balance marks on it at all. So this is...
I think there is a few holes. I don't know.
A few little holes, yeah.
But, you know, it's definitely better than what comes out of the factory.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, you don't know whether they've done it with keys in the the end of it or what, really.
Yeah,
but
that's the only thing. I haven't got them in there, but
yeah.
those keys in that.
But whether you do it with keys in or you put the keys in and then do the front pulley, obviously when we balance the crank assembly, it's all balanced in the end anyway. So
Yeah.
what we tend to do is if the keys are not in it, we'll put the keys in when we come to do the pulley. So yeah, that's good news. What about the other end? What's
Yeah,
that
the other
looking like?
end's the same. They're both really good. So, you know, I'll tickle that last little bit out and then
pretty
then I
bang
can-
on.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
think
that's
that
really
by sticking a new crank on like this and it being pretty much bang on, I think that confirms that our machine's pretty accurate. So,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the Mini that you've just done a minute ago, many would argue that our machine's not calibrated, but yeah,
Well,
it just
yeah.
goes to show it's with a new crank on, it's pretty bang on. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, just a little bit off that, then you've got to face the flywheel.
Yeah, that's just over here. That's got some pretty good little hard spots in it all around here, and
Standard stuff for the Cosy,
Yeah.
innit?
but then all right to do because they're just a flat one. So
That's it. Ideal. We'll
Makes
leave you
it
to it
close.
then, mate. Thank
Cool.
you. Once again, guys, thank you very much for watching. Till Friday, have a good one. Cheers.